So awesome. Corey, can you tell us a little bit more about how did you get here to Mirai Labs, to Web3, to being a CEO, to being co-founder and starting multiple things?
For sure. I think it was a pretty interesting path. Going back to before I got into all of this, I guess entrepreneurship in general, I was aspiring to be a pilot in the military and did the
Oh,
typical stuff you'd expect in high school: chemistry, physics, aerospace, math, all of it. But I only applied to a singular university. And I was like, all right, if I get this, happy days, I'm going in. It was a military university in Australia, and I didn't get it. So I was like, all right, so what's my alternative here? Uh, I just went into sales, honestly, just went into door knocking and gave me it was like very, very strong character building, I guess you could say. And that was really my first foray or introduction into what entrepreneurship is. I never really paid attention to it after that. So I was about 17 at that point. And then around that time started my first small startup. I guess it was just me. Had to borrow $1,000 off of my brother to start it, and it was called Her Shave Club, which was actually inspired by Dollar Shave Club back then. Pretty easy market. I recognized was just looking in the comments of Dollar Shave Club, which is like a razor subscription for men. Turned out to be the largest e-commerce exit, but what happens is basically they get a monthly subscription of razors, and the girls are in the comment asking if girls can order, and I was like, why don't I just make one for women? That went really bad. Did not work at all. But that led me into obviously wanting to pursue a lot more things. And it was around the probably early 2017 is when I did get intro to crypto. I just dove in buying the worst ICOs you could think possible. And I just was basically a community member. And I recognized that a lot of these ICOs are making a lot of money, but they didn't have anyone responding to the comments, and there was a lot of community, but no one helping them. So I was like, all right, well, how about I just start a community management team? And that's what I did. I got some friends that I had in the Philippines, one friend in particular, Jarrett, he led the team for me, recruitment and everything else. And that was like my first like real business that started moving in 2017, 2018. Randomly out of that, being young, I think I was, at that point, I would have just been like 19 or 20 or something like that. I bought a car and joined a car club, and that's actually where I met another co-founder of mine, which we ended up building Australia's largest toy gun store, which is an e-commerce store. That one went amazing, completely different. I missed all of DeFi summer, and then at the middle of 2020, something around there. Sorry, I discovered NFTs, and like I think it was like on Instagram or something. Someone put a story up, so I went to OpenSea. They linked to OpenSea or something. Then I saw F1 Delta Time by Animoca, and I was like, all right, I love F1, I love crypto, and I'm keen to lose some money. So I just bought that, and I just dove in, and I was like, all right, well, here we go. And it was super hard to play, to be honest, like the on-ramping. If I didn't know previously how to use MetaMask and all of this stuff, probably would have been impossible for me to onboard. So I just made a video because I wanted my friends to join. I made a video, and that blew up. Had like 50,000 views or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, that was not the plan here. But anyway, and then a stranger messaged me, and that turned out to be my co-founder. He was like, you want to build a game? I was like, no, why would I want to build a game? And then we just kept talking. And then over time, naturally developed a dynamic where we realized, all right, I think that we can do this. So we looked around and we were like, all right, what's happening? Well, Axie was in its infancy, wasn't really blowing up just yet, but there was something happening there. And we recognized that we could probably try to iterate on the scholarship system. And then we got to building, and I guess the rest is history. We started building April 2021, and then just kept building from there.
So you have this common thread where you kind of like stumble upon things. You have this openness, but what I see is also like you have this wanting to make things fun, right? Somehow there's some sort of fun involved with what you're trying to build each time, from your gun store to even the e-commerce flop that you had at the start, and even what you're building now. And somehow you also stumbled to become at that point, and I remember clearly because that's also when I first joined Kyber. You were number one game on the PegXC was the number one game on Polygon at
Yeah.
that time, right? And again, there's like completely stumbled upon, right? So like when you kind of reflect on that whole huge boom, especially around the P2E craze, and then the subsequent bust, right? Like, well, what do you learn from this, and then how did you start pivoting to where you guys are today?
Yeah. Back then it was just pure trench work, right? Like it was April 2021, put our heads down, recognized an opportunity, did a bunch of bootstrapping stuff that would just position us properly if the market did come through, and decided to launch it October 2021. And then just had the thesis here, like keep things hot, keep the campfire hot, keep people around that campfire. And so then we launched the game, which is in an MVP stage. It basically didn't work, but the community wanted it. And the week after, we did an NFT sale or something. The week after, we did our fundraise announcement. And then the week after, we released the token. It was in a similar order to this. And from there, it blew up. Clearly, you guys already know we built the on-chain escrow system for rentals inside of the game, which essentially enabled the scholarship model to scale. And that brought in like 27 million wallets that were connected, over 50 million transactions, 500,000 active players. $200 million was traded inside of the game, just natively on our platform. And from there, I mean, it was blowing up mega quickly, right? And it's almost impossible, especially for a startup studio, to react to that. So we recognized and just listened to the community and built things that they wanted. They didn't really want us to change the core game. They wanted us to build things around it, which would enable them to play whatever this game is. At that time, we just called it the money game. People wanted to speculate. People wanted to put their money here, try to figure out different ways of making money. And we just gave them tools to potentially enable them to make more informed decisions compared to other people. And that's really what they wanted. And then obviously the market downturn happened. We just entered into a bear market. And it was during that time that we basically doubled down on mobile. Our original thesis was mobile. And we built two games. So we built Pegasus, the second version. This was coming up to this maybe Q1, Q2, 2023, right? And and then also something called Petopia, which is another game that we have. And then we just put our heads down. We were like, all right, from now we start at ground zero. We know what we need to be doing. Let's go and build all the way through this market. And it was probably like, I would say, mid 2023 that we recognized that like maybe the market won't come back anytime soon. And we should probably prepare for that and ask questions that what happens if it doesn't come back? How do you plan to make money as a game studio? Because back then, I think you boys probably remember everyone's like, yeah, gaming, I think Web3 gaming's dead. I think crypto might be dead. It was like everyone's the you could expect, same as the 2017, 2018 bear. And so we're looking around and we're just asking questions like what's actually making money independent of the market conditions. And that led us down to like, we'll talk about it soon, I think, but like shards and all of these other dynamics that we led into, but still tripling down on our thesis here that mobile is the distribution route, not browser or web, which kind of dominates Web3 gaming at this point. So I guess the key lessons to where we are now was that betting on mobile is the wise decision. It's still in its infancy stages, and we think it has a lot to grow, but also just adapting, being nimble, and opening your eyes to the potential that someone else is doing something right, and it might be you could adapt it to what you're doing right now.
So we will come back to the mobile gaming. I have a question for you, Corey, about the Telegram open blockchain, open network. But you mentioned that speculation was the main driving force for your first game. But then we have a true gamers that only care about fun and about social elements of the game, which, for example, we can see in Fortnite, right? There's no big speculation around Fortnite. It's free. It's exciting. It has those social elements that people thrive for, especially back in the day in the pandemic's time. So yeah, I'm wondering when will be the transition in Web3 gaming from speculation to just a simple fun games? Is it on
I don't
the
think there will
horizon?
be. I don't think so. What we need to consider is why we built blockchain and why we wanted to make it permissionless and open is because people now have the ability to build their biggest desires. And that means it's also like borderless in the sense that like you will easily find other people that align with your crazy ideas in this space. And that compounds. And the foundations of Web3 gaming is purely based on speculation or trying to earn money. It's very wise that we continue to innovate in that direction. There's just going to be things that typically lag in these early years, like infrastructure, distribution, the app stores, policies, all this type of stuff, right? So people will get creative and work around that. But what's really, really, really important here is that people listening question what is fun. To me, Fortnite may be fun, but to everybody else that's on the Blast ecosystem, degeneracy with money is fun. Is that not a game? Blast, the entire ecosystem is basically one big money game. Having billions of dollars there and so much volume would go ahead and tell us that probably it's a good game. And there's no other way to debate something like that, right? Like this is just comes down to a matter of opinion. What is a game? What is fun? And sure, we can push it into some siloed decision of what a game may be, but the reality is you may be missing the opportunity / the future of an entire industry. And I think Blast is a very, very good example of what will come, because there will be many more Blasts, many more experiences very similar to that.
I wanted to jump on this because I think before blockchain came along, you already had a lot of gaming ecosystems where people would, for example, farm up items. They would buy them, sell them. They would, buy skin. So those game economies already started even before blockchain, right? So I think that I heard there's one argument where basically now you can have on-chain and transparent ownership of all your items, and I think that's obviously one direction with gaming. But I think the what you mentioned here around, let's say, degeneracy with money kind of games, I think it's also about isn't it about the addressable market size? Because there's only so much financial degens, but if you look at, let's say, the whole world of gamers, there's a very, very big world of gamers that you can address. So do you see them as separate, or do you see them as somewhat intertwined, overlap, or somewhat subset or another subset of one versus another? And I also noticed when you approach the thesis of having everything mobile and, let's say, releasing out Petopia, which I've tried. I've played. It's pretty fun, by the way. I also see that there's a very strong focus on actually making a sticky, fun game that has pretty much no mention in the gameplay around anything around financial degeneracy either. So I'm just interesting because it kind of, there's a few conflicting ideas here. I want to kind of pick your brain on that.
For sure. I think on the first part here, total addressable market, how much money you can make. For sure, the addressable market will continue to grow because it's still in its infancy. However, I think it's important that we recognize that, and this is probably a bad example, but I'll use as an example anyway, like physical casinos, total addressable market. They're obviously not going to go to a city where there's no people, so they go to a city where there's people. But the amount of people that actually gamble still wouldn't. It's probably a very small percentage of the population. And at the same time, there is legal ages to do so. But it's still a good business, and they're everywhere. I think it's just recognizing that for a business to thrive, for money to be made, for an ecosystem to exist, there just needs to be a flywheel of money where the business can continue to exist and operate based off the amount of people that are there. But they need to do things to get those people to come back. And in its infancy, it doesn't have such a solidified flywheel or business model as a casino or just a business in general. And that's what they're discovering. And hence, that's why you see so many things disappear and pop up. What I would call it is a blue ocean versus a red ocean. there's just a lot of money to be made, and mistakes can be made and you can still survive. Whereas in the real world, making a mistake, especially on serious financial risk, there isn't much that you can do. You'll likely die. Hence, there's a lot of innovation in this space. But anyway, on our personal thesis, right? I think the important part is, yes, I definitely believe in the degeneracy or question what is fun. But at the same time, I want innovation. Like, what I want to push for is that there is adoption or integration into our everyday life. And I am 200% certain that that will come through mobile. Crypto is like one of the only spaces where somehow we've created an innovation that helps us. However, we went back 10 years on the devices that we use it on. Like, it forced us to go to web and computers. But we know historically, just in progression in life, that we always move to mobile. It's just how we are. And that is the next stage. At least that's what I believe, right? It just seems that at least in the last few years, like this year, I think it's getting a lot more attention. But in the last few years, there hasn't been enough of a push, attention, or maybe the base infrastructure just was not ready for it. But I am quite confident that now, you look at Vodafone just announced that they want to put wallets into SIM cards. You look at the physical devices like Saga and Jambo. I mean, people are pushing there with these ideas. I just feel like right now is the time for us to go heavy on mobile. But that requires us sometimes to hide it for the normies, so that they can feel as if they're getting onboarded to just an experience that provides a benefit, which may be instant payments with anyone, anywhere. That might be enough for them to go, okay, this is pretty nice. And they won't question the tech. That brings adoption at the same time. So we just need to question like what's appropriate at what time and balance it, not just assuming that everyone and their grandma is a degen and going to bet on shit coins, because I don't think that's the reality.
Yeah, totally aligned on that. So you mentioned adoption and seamless experience. What do you think about Ton and the way they designed onboarding? My personal bet is that very simple mobile game hub, just like Facebook back in 2010, will be Telegram open network. When I created my wallet and I could seamlessly transfer my funds just using a Telegram handle to my friend, it's just the way to go, in my opinion. And I just quickly checked, they have 800 million monthly active users. This is, 400 more than Web3 gamers, active users, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this is one of the biggest communities that can be onboarded into Web3 gaming, and they even don't know about it. But the speculation is still there because of the wallet integrated into the app of Telegram. And then last thought is that Notcoin showed that it's also scalable. Millions of people participated in this game, and yeah, it's still there. So what are your thoughts about Telegram Open Network in terms of gaming?
For sure. I think in general, on being valued at 26 billion FDV or something like that, just goes to tell us that we're not alone in the thesis. I'm pretty sure people know that mobile is going to be next. There's no need to try to justify it. History will repeat itself. On the gaming side, yes, for sure. I think what we're looking at is something like a mini clip or something similar, and there is a serious amount of money to be made there. Sure, like Facebook again, just the Facebook gaming side. I think there is just an incredible amount of innovation that's going to come out of that. Insane amount of user acquisition for Web3 in general. People are going to get exposed to it. And if you look at Facebook Messenger now, right, like you can launch a collaborative game, you can play a game together. If that was on chain for some reason and you earn tokens for some reason, and then it just prompts you to create a wallet, and you're like, okay, now I have a wallet. And then you have a reason to spend it on XYZ. Let's say they bring out ecom into the Ton network. This is a pretty insane flywheel. You've just acquired some users, you've got money flowing around, and these people have just been onboarded into Web3 in probably the most natural fashion I think we could ever wish for. What I'm trying to say is that Ton is taking a route similar to something like WeChat, that did like a full ecosystem play. And the base of it was the messaging service. And then WeChat went into payments, WeChat went into mini apps, WeChat went into e-commerce, like a whole bunch of stuff. Ton is likely to go the same way, but just foundationally on blockchain. I don't see anyone being able to compete with that. Telegram can do whatever they like. Their founder is insane, super tuned in. They're only going to go up from here. But I'm not sure on like the FTV or market cap side of things. Like, it's a huge valuation. I guess people will be comparing it to WeChat and these other ones. Plus, like Imran said, total addressable market, how long it's going to take for Web3 to get that penetration to where it's completely mainstream. Different story. But either way, these guys are like the second biggest messaging network, I think, behind WhatsApp. And I don't see WhatsApp doing anything like this.
Yeah, unfortunately. So do you see any other chains that are retail/gaming specific that caught your eye recently?
Like that are doing insane things? Not so much. That are pushing in the direction that I would. Personally, not so much. You see a lot of them heavily focused in their specific niches, which is amazing. There's plenty of niches that need to be dominated that are going to value people at multi-billion. But for me, the one that I look at closely is just Ton and Solana, the way they operate, the type of people that they're working, that they have in the community, I should say, that are using the products, how they acquire those users, how they accept those users, how they let those users build, I think is really, really important. So they're the two that we're eyeing at this point and taking inspiration from, I guess you could say.
So you mentioned the whole ecosystem play. And you also mentioned or alluded to what you are looking at. Could you share a little bit more about this vision? How is Mirai Labs, Mirai Chain, and your family of products positioned? And especially, for most people who kind of know Mirai from the previous cycle, they would probably go, okay, these guys are pretty much kind of like similar or maybe head to head to someone like Axie or Ronin Chain. Like, so for the people who are in the know, who understand a bit more of the market, where do you stand vis-a-vis these players?
Yeah, our vision is that we want to facilitate the entire ecosystem of mobile. And again, like I think you may have said it in the earlier stage, actually maybe just before the call, a super app. That is something that we would love to play with. And that's really the direction of Mirai Chain. So what we want to be able to do is provide an ecosystem of user liquidity and builder liquidity in a singular location on top of a specific chain to make life easy for them. Now, the super app is not going to be just a one chain type situation. Obviously, for mobile innovation, there's obviously going to be other chains as well. So we're going to be multi-chain. But at the same time, we recognize that there's things that you can do when you build your own chain that makes life easier for builders. They want a very specific experience on mobile. Some of these people will just be porting from browser to mobile, and they're on an existing chain. But at the same time, you will have very specific builders. For example, in Vietnam, that their entire company is only mobile, and they want a very specific user end experience. That's what we can facilitate, and that's what we want to focus on. So in the short term, I guess you could look at Mirai app, the Mirai app that we have here, as a crypto super app, and hopefully mission here is to be the bridge between or WeChat. Look at WeChat, right? And Venmo. Mix WeChat and Venmo together. The mission is to execute on something like that. Very, very big. Partner with the right telcos, partner with the right angels, the people who can push it in the right direction, like literally Vodafone or someone like this, right? And be that base that they can provide for these people who are going to onboard. Sure, you'll have a wallet. Let's say Vodafone passes their system with a SIM card, right? They'll have a wallet, but what ecosystem are they going to interact with? That's the question here. Someone needs to build it, and that's the vision. While it might be a little bit ahead of its time, we feel we're pretty sure that these megacorps are setting the foundation to take action, and we want to be able to provide that action with a route to play, and it's a vision.
I remember I buzzed you a few months ago and I said I saw that announcement around Mirai Chain. pretty cool? Are you guys trying to build like the Garena or the Steam of Web3? What's your answer to that?
There will be games for sure. I mean, games is a massive focus for us. And in the early stages, I think this will make a little bit more sense with how we intend to gamify the entire ecosystem, take inspiration from Lazada and Shopee, right? I think you know how those platforms operate. So I think you actually worked at Shopee once upon a time as on the marketing side, which is amazing. So you know that these guys play the game really, really well, and it involves gaming. And on our side, we want there to be mini games, but also proper big mobile games to be on the platform. Now, whether you're a publisher or whatever it happens to be, whatever you want to call it, typically they are just that because they have player or user liquidity. That is at the core of our plans, and having big games there obviously builds more player and user liquidity. So you could imagine that, yes, that is one of the verticals that we'll be focusing on.
I have a question, because you mentioned around being the home base and having builders come in, providing the right tools, providing the right support. On this note, I note that you guys used to be on Polygon. You made the announcement with Mirai Labs and Mirai Chain that you were migrating to Avalanche. Can you give us the context of that decision?
Yeah, in the early stages, right? Let me put it this way.
Yeah.
If you build something really big and it does really well, and you don't capture the value, for example, bringing in 50 million transactions, 27 million new wallets, $200 million going through the system, and you didn't capture the value, you would hope that the one that you captured the value for would care. And if they do not, then you go somewhere to build something that captures the value for yourself, i.e. your own chain.
Can you explain what does the value capture mean?
Well, I would go ahead and say that we bridged at least 50% of that volume into Polygon, meaning that that's TVL, bunch of transactions, people swapping on dexes on the chain. I mean, you got to imagine what is the flow-on effect. We did 50 million transactions only with our contracts. Those people are now in the ecosystem. That may have translated into literally 500 million transactions. That would be on our chain if we built it on our chain, but it is not. And from a builder's perspective, if you are capable of doing something like this, it would be wise of you to capture it at every level. If you are ambitious enough, meaning that the TVL, it comes into your chain, and then you can use that TVL, for example, for native yield to incentivize builders within your ecosystem, similar to what Blast does. That doesn't happen in a chain like Polygon. Another example would be building a native DEX so that we can provide liquidity to everybody that builds on the chain, but at the same time, we're able to take fees on that DEX. That might help us survive and grow. Alternatively, all of the yield from the DEX and the LPs, we can incentivize more liquidity. There's just so many things that we can do when we build it. And
so, as in mafioso speak, keeping the money within the family, right?
Yes, but also like how that money is used and how those metrics are used. We want to push it in a very specific direction. We don't have any intention of jumping from gaming to another narrative, or for example, just being in L2, then going to gaming, then going to RWA, and then going to DPEN or something like this. We just want to be purely focused on the mobile ecosystem, and all of the money that is made, all of the foundation's money should be purely focused on incentivizing and benefiting innovators in that industry.
But this is basically a direct result of your spike, and then people leaving, and then realizing that you did not capture value, and then the partner that you chose at that time, at this point, did not then proceed to find ways to bridge the gap or build more value with you guys.
like the easiest way to look at this is look for a situation where, let's say you guys own the chain or the listener owns the chain, and then someone builds on your chain and they become the second largest game in the entirety of 2022. CoinGecko stated that we are the second largest game. Would you talk about them?
Yeah, sure. Of course.
Yeah. Makes sense to me too. But
I mean, so how is it different now on Avalanche? Did you receive, because you are building on top of Avalanche tech stack, right? But you are still able to create your own chain and thus capture the value. So is the team at Avalanche really supportive? And how does the collaboration with a giant like Avalanche look like?
For sure. It's like night and day. Now, to be clear, like we didn't go to Avalanche because I reached out to them and told them like, we need help. Will you help us? And they say yes or anything like that. At the end, when we were going and looking at our decisions, I think I'll go ahead and say it's like Q3, Q4, 2022. We're just looking where we can build and we don't need to speak to someone. Like we just get everything that we need and we just deploy so that we can bring our users the experience that we wanted. Avalanche had that. They were like one of the main app chains at that time. And we were like, beautiful. All right. So we went to build it. We built everything. We built the native bridges. We built like literally the entire thing until we had to speak to them to deploy. And then they were like, why did you not message us? Like, what are you doing? Boom, instantly they were helping because we didn't think that they would give a shit, right? Just from our previous experience. So then I went there and yes, it was a very different story. I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like, you're their favorite child, I guess you could say. I was very surprised. But again, I would recommend anyone. There's literally nothing that I can say about the Avalanche team that is negative in any form.
I've been to Avalanche Barcelona. I enjoyed myself. I found the builder network there to be very warm.
They're very welcoming, very warm. They give a shit. And it's very apparent. They will message you first. I know that sounds like not a big thing, but they want to know what the hell you're doing and they want to know how the hell they can help. That's powerful. Very powerful.
But still, as a mobile ecosystem, you rely strongly on App Store and Google Play, right? So is the decentralization or interoperability a little bit at risk, given this strong reliance?
Well, think about this. Ton is valued at 26 billion. Their entire everything is dependent on a singular app. Like the app stores could go, I don't want Ton. And now how many companies just died? Our thesis here is, of course, you have Mirai Super App and there is many things within there. Imagine WeChat, right? But the reality of the situation is that the chain itself and our infra, so you got embed wallets, they can use deep links. They've got decentralized payment processes. We've got a bunch of stuff, which is also independent of the main Mirai app. They can build their own app and get deployed in the app stores or do something similar to FriendTech, I guess, if you really wanted to, and they can still be there on mobile devices. And that's really the only thing that we see can be a high risk to Ton. And I have seen it from people who are building on the Ton network. They're building a wallet for it, and they were speaking to a lead investor. And that lead investor said, we love it. We want to do it. But what happens if something happens to the Telegram app? Or what happens if Telegram doesn't like you and they just want to stop you from building? And to them, that was too much of a risk. So while there's a lot of centralization there, and there's a lot of centralization naturally on mobile that you can't really get around that, we could ship a new OS if we really wanted to and focus only on Android. I just don't think that is the path to mass adoption. The reality is that we need to blend in. Push the limits, absolutely, but we need to blend in. And let's say one day, Mirai app is enormous. There's millions of users every single month, and the app goes down. The people who are not building within the app, the chain itself, the entire ecosystem, the money, it's still good. All of these other independent apps that we're building on Mirai chain, it's still good. And I think that's important. And we're just trying to obviously minimize that risk that Telegram has there. But you can't blame them for taking that route either. They have 800 million active users. It's like, of course you would do that route. So it's just a different scenario, right? We don't come from 800 million active users. It's very different, very different.
Interesting. And what can you tell us about with shards, shard airdrop? Is it come? Did you guys announce that it's coming? And how are you guys looking at things like bots and Sybils and the community sentiment around basically farming this whole ecosystem?
For sure. So some context for people. Shards is a monetization layer for Web3 gaming, inspired by the original underlying model of friend tech where people speculate on something. And there is a formula which they all abide by and try to gamify. We put this into an SDK, which allows games to integrate it. And then people in the game and outside of the game can speculate on the guilds that are competing inside of the game. There's profit share that goes all around, a really, really interesting flywheel. So, like I said, we're working with the team at Shrapnel. You've got Draftables, you've got Extremeverse, you've got obviously Pegaxi, you've got Block Lords, like some of the biggest games in the space. Do recognize that there is an opportunity here and it's doing really well. And the fundraise for that one is basically done at this point. The team is pushing pretty heavily for like a launch around end of June for the token launch, I should say. The product has been live for some time now. And what we did was do like a trading slash airdrop, or what I call it, like a game system or something inside of the platform inspired by Blur. So Blur had their trading formulas where you'll get points for trading. We have a similar scenario on our side. So I guess, Imran, in this scenario, like probably what we are comparing to more so is like Portal, where you didn't really need to do much, nothing involved in money. It was just like points for taking social actions. We definitely understand that side can be botted, but we're more like an exchange in the sense that like it's very simple to remove someone who doesn't care or is potentially botting by making them take a specific action, which would require it to be a human, or commit some sort of money, whether it's $5 or whatever. If they've got 1,000 bots and you ask them to spend $10 each, they're probably going to be like, is it worth it? Or something along those lines, right? So beyond that, obviously what you guys are seeing with Layer Zero is quite interesting. And with the like getting the army of people together and trying to find these cyber or whatever you call them, the botters. So for sure, I think we want to go ahead and try to play with something like that when our season ends, which is still a little while away. But I think fundamentally just recognizing that it is a little bit different. And we don't have the expectation that you guys we just give out the tokens for absolutely nothing, and you can bot the shit out of it if you want to. I mean, that is just not the reality of the platform for sure. And to be clear, I'm not saying that we can remove every bot or every fake person. I mean, we'll try our absolute best, obviously, but there's some smart people out there for sure, but we will try.
So yeah, I have one of my last questions. It's a more of a general one, but what do you think most people think wrong about GameFi and crypto? And like, what are the misconceptions that you can see all over the place and you strongly disagree with them?
I think the general consensus is that the game needs to be fun in the traditional sense, right? We were just discussing this a little bit earlier. I just strongly disagree with this. And at the same time, if people are tripling down on web or browser or PC in general, I think it's the wrong bet. The consumer space is dominated by mobile, and at the same time, so is traditional gaming. It's a $200 billion industry. More than 51% of it is mobile only. Console, PC, browser, everything else shares the other 40-something percent. You're betting against twice. You're betting against the reality of the real world. I would say that's unwise, but I might be wrong. But yes, I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's a pretty obvious trend, and it might repeat in our industry. We aren't that different from the real world. We do have blockchain, but I mean, I don't think that changes the laws of nature to that point. So yeah, in short, what is fun? Definitely question it, meaning that there's probably going to be money involved in most of our games, and at the same time, consider mobile. Even if it's not a AAA game, they can make a lot of money.
Interesting. I think before we end off, I had a very personal curiosity. I think for those that follow you on Twitter, will see that every now and then you might get into a little beef with like Jiho from Axie.
What?
You guys, what? Yeah, so you guys shit on each other. So I would like to understand a little bit more about how this started, what's going on. What do you think? How do you guys fundamentally disagree on, or is there something that you have about him or he has about you? And then just bear in mind that we might one day give the chance for Jiho to also share his side of the story.
I would love to know. I mean, for sure, I would love to hear what he has to say, because my answer to your question is I have no idea. I mean, there might be something that I did. I'm not sure. But I'll give you guys some context onto like our history, how we got connected. We were both in Vietnam, both Vietnamese builders, or the companies at least are Vietnamese. And in the early stages, I think you know Loy, of course. He just introed me to Jiho and said, have a chat to him. And I was like, sweet as. So this was like 2021 or something. And it was all normal. I mean, he helped me with an intro, I think, to the Polygon ecosystem. I offered him to invest, but at that point they were busy as well. He messaged me later and was like, I wish I invested, because Pegasus was at 1 billion FDV, but that's fine. And then, then I think where it would have changed. So to be clear, like a large majority of our user base was the Axie community, right? Let's not like think that is not the reality. Of course it is. They were really the only ones playing games. It was Axie and then everyone else trying to get the Axie community. And we recognized that pretty early. I mean, our core inspiration was Axie. We wouldn't be here if Axie, the team, didn't build it. So what I did in the early stages, we needed to bootstrap our attention. So I built something called P2E News, which is like a news website and social media platform. Social media page, I should say, where I just covered everything play to earn. That was Axie and everyone else building. And that ended up getting like between 6 and 10 million impressions every month. And I was like, all right, well, this is getting some traction. And then someone from the Axie community messaged me on Twitter. I think they messaged the news page. I don't remember, but they were like, do you want to buy the SLP Twitter page? And I was like, it was the only option available. Like, you can't have another handle. It's still around now. It's the one with hundreds of thousands of followers. And I was like, at that time, it had like 5,000 or basically no followers because Axie wasn't very big. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll do it. I don't know why I did that, but I bought it anyway. And then I was like, what? In my head, I was like, maybe Axie will go enormous, and then this page, and then you could sell it and make money. So I was like, sweet. And then what I would do is I would talk about Axie. Like, obviously we're a news page, so we're not biased. I would talk about Axie all the time, and then just share it on the SLP Twitter page, so that the Axie people could get their news, and there could be more attention to the news page, as you could understand. So I was basically just managing that SLP Twitter page as if it was the Axie team talking about it, all in good ways, never negative. And then what happened? And then one day, he got angry. I even informed them that I purchased it. To be clear, I messaged them from the page. I was like, I own this page. It's me, Corey, from Pegaxie. I messaged them, so they knew. And then I can't remember what happened. He got mad, saying I had to change the bio. So I changed the bio. Actually, it was before that. Alexander, and he's also really nice. I'm not sure if he likes me or not, but he messaged me, just, can you change the bio? So I was like, sweet. And then Jiho messaged me again just after that, like a week or two, just getting mad about the bio. And I was like, literally, your co-founder told me to write this bio. And I was like, chill. Anyway, he just like unleashed, and I was like, I don't know what happened. And then, of course, during this time zone, like time period, like someone came up with the Pegasus is the new Axie or something like this, or the Axie killer. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, that went hella out of hand. And then I think they must have thought that I made that up. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was just like a spiral. And then he just started digging at me. I'm not sure why. Just saying that everything we do is a failure and all of this type of stuff. I was like, what? I'm not sure what happened. And then in person, I mean, we're in person, never says anything to me, won't acknowledge me. So I'm not, but I literally have no idea. But as you could imagine, like when you're in fierce competition or maybe in your head, you make enemies, right? And it's motivating. I can understand where that comes from. I mean, I'm in the same. Of course, we want to compete at that level. Sky Mavis is enormous. Of course, you would want to, or Ronin, of course, you would want to reach that level. So, of course, you want to try to beat them. But on a personal level, I'm not even sure if it is personal. It might just be company, but never had the discussion. I'm not sure.
That escalated quickly.
It was like we'll chill, and then we didn't really talk to each other. It was more like casual, and then boom. I literally think it was around the peak of Pegaxi or a little bit later.
Right. It
But
went
yeah,
to
I
zero.
might be
It
forgetting
went, it
something.
went 0 to 100 really hard. Yeah.
Great. What it feels like is like
Yeah.
someone told him something, like possibly literally a lie, and then it's just like circulated and turned into a reality, or like the Axie killer type stuff. I mean, yeah, as you could imagine, that wouldn't make you happy, but I don't know. Never really was like an issue for me until he started like saying stuff online. So of course I would dig back just for fun, but it's not that personal for me. I understand that it might be competition, but at the same time, you are like worth $5 billion. So chill. I think you're doing okay.
That's very interesting. I wanted to wrap it up and kind of like bring it back to a lighter note or note for the future. Is there anything that you wanted to share about what you see in the market, or for all listeners here today before we end off?
And yeah, I mean, how could people engage with the token launch campaign at the same time? If you could say the exact way.
Sure. So you'll have shards, of course, coming up. So I'll just pay attention to the shards platform for Mirai. That's something for the future. So you guys will see everything, don't worry. But for now, I can't really comment on timelines. But for shards, yes, actively right now, I would be paying attention to the platform if you're interested in it, definitely. And then I think I covered everything for what I believe in the future, Imran. We're trying to build that. That's the reality of it. Everything mobile, triple down on mobile. How can we force innovation in that space so that we can, as an industry, not go through bear markets that we're experiencing like before, where basically building stops for many companies. I would prefer there's enough liquidity to go around where there's still a viable business model for most people, and that requires bringing in normal people's money, and that's on mobile. So
very cool. So the financialization of games, making fun on chain, and really making this with a mobile vision. Very cool. If there's nothing else, then thanks so much for dropping by, Corey. And
awesome.
Let's keep in touch. And I'm very excited to see what's next for Mirai.
Let's do it. Let's revisit it in like a year or two.
Let's go.
All right. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, Corey.